Good morning, guys. Happy Wednesday on your commute here, on your drive. Good morning. Got a good one here for you. This is the final prep. This is the draft guide here for you. We're going to give you guys 8 solid tips, including a bonus tips on how to win your draft. I know people still have to draft this weekend. It's the biggest draft weekend of the year. I want to get you guys fully prepared. And also, there's a ton of news here that may have some significant fantasy football impact as you're making decisions on, particularly some sleepers here for your draft. So lots of news to cover. Awesome draft tips, guys. The complete solution here to help you guys. We're going to give you guys practical stuff you can apply in your draft. Welcome to the show, Jim, man. I'm excited to dive in.
Hell yes, counselor, man. It is, it's just happening right now. All these drafts are happening right now. It's very exciting. By the way, I've got one of my high stakes leagues coming up Friday night. That's my second high stakes draft. I'm looking forward to it, man. It should be good.
Yeah, man, it's a big draft weekend and it's happening fast, all coming to us quick, all this build up, all for this. So I'm super excited. I just want to get people as prepped as possible with these draft tips. Okay, very, very important. If you are new to the channel, guys, smash it, tap it, hit the thumbs up, really helps the channel, and grab the 16-round draft. So should sleepers, breakouts, optimal players draft in each round. If you still got a draft, this is the solution. It's going to give you all the optimal players on a silver platter. I've updated full mock drafts, principal cheat sheet, everything you guys need. And when you're in there, make sure you guys do grab the 16-round plus tool as well. Very, very important. You get a 50% discount once you're a 16-round draft solution owner, or you can get 16-round plus on its own. Okay, guys, linked both below. Grab the solution, grab the draft tool. Totally separate, but amazing. Going to give you guys a major advantage. So make sure you guys do that, all right? Jim, I don't even know where to start with the news. Let's just start here. Where's Breaking Brad?
We now have breaking news.
Man, this was a lot of stuff that happened yesterday, man. So we're going to cover it, and then there's probably stuff that's going to break between the time we record this from Tuesday evening till the time it gets released to 7 a.m. at your door here. So a couple of things here that jump out at me quickly is Frank Gore Jr. got cut. Like I said, he got signed after the draft, comes out in preseason week 3, tears it up, 100 yards, 5.5, whatever yards per carry, and a touchdown. Looked really good. I'm not sold on, Cook. James Cook only had 2 touchdowns last year, was struggling in camp, dealing with fumbles. They brought in Ray Davis, but it's sad to see someone who played their heart out in Frank Gore Jr. that last game, and he just gets cut. Ridiculous, Jim. Absolutely ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah, I think he'll find a home somewhere else. I'm not too worried about him. I was kind of disappointed when he actually went to Buffalo because I knew that was going to be a tough team to make just because of the makeup of the room there. But there is several running back rooms in this league that really, really need a running back, and he would be a great choice. Wouldn't you love to see him go to Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas, they're flirting with Dalvin Cook. I think Dalvin Cook went for a visit. There's some news there.
That is stupid. What?
He says he's in the best.
What is Jerry Jones doing? He's an idiot.
Just a bunch of washed up has-beens, and he's trying to make something there. Dallas would be good, or even I like him in Minnesota. I don't believe Aaron Jones is the starter, or even Cincinnati. I'm not sold on Zach Moss or Chase Brown. I have no conviction in those guys. There's a ton of teams, or even the Chargers. I mean, get rid of. Seriously, they got Kamani Vidal. I don't know what's going to happen there, but get rid of J.K. Dobbins, move over Gus Bus, and let this guy play. But again, the big thing with Frank Gore, again, some people saying he's undersized, but the guy's got heart. He can run. He's good. So that's one thing. This is not a surprise. Grass is green. Elijah Mitchell on season-ending injury reserve due to a hamstring injury. That's crazy. Now, typically a hamstring injury, you're on IR for 4 weeks max, or like you're sidelined. But when it's Elijah Mitchell, it's season ending. Like this is what's
no. Don't you remember on our discussion from the Fantasy Football Summit?
Right.
There's different grades of hamstring injury. It appears that this is like the grade 3, the most severe. The grade 1 is the one that's like 4 weeks. So this is obviously a severe tear in that muscle. It's going to take a long time to heal. But Elijah Mitchell, that dude has not played football, I swear, in 3 years. Yeah, he is always injured. So it's kind of a non-issue for me. Jordan Mason has been kind of the guy to back up CMC during this preseason. So I'm in on taking Jordan Mason as a handcuff, as one of those late round handcuffs where if anything happens to CMC, that dude's going to be very valuable. So
Right.
that's where I'm going with that one.
A couple other cuts we want to talk about here. Again, no stock in Elijah Mitchell. But mind you, Jordan Mason, like I said, gets a boost, I think. Jordan Mason gets a boost. Isaac Rendo, maybe, but you were talking he's going to be more special teams by the looks of it.
I think he's going to be handling kick returns, man. He'll probably score a couple touchdowns, I'm sure. But yeah, not quite the volume you need for fantasy.
Other stuff that happened yesterday, Patriots cut QB Bailey Zappi. Again, not really fantasy relevant, just worth noting. This was short. Eagles cut wide receiver John Ross. How is that guy still in the NFL? Years to wow us, we're not wow. John Ross.
He's just one of those outside speed guys, and now he's old. So he's gone.
Former 2017 ninth overall pick. Trying to make a comeback, John Ross was cut again from the Eagles. Something to note here.
Breaking Brad. Just couldn't make the team. I don't know if you saw, but Desmond Ridder was cut as well, man. Last year, his starting quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. This year, he can't even be a backup in Arizona. So that's we all kind of knew, right?
Yeah, years to wow us. Another guy, I knew this was going to be short-lived. He caught a touchdown in week 3 of preseason, but Martavis Bryant also cut. Wasn't expecting much there out of Martavis.
He hasn't been anything for years.
Like I think 7 years or something like that. But he caught a touchdown in preseason, and I thought maybe, just maybe, but watched him making a lot of cuts here. And then this is not a surprise as well. None of these are really surprised, other than Frank Gore. And again, even the Bills posted, and they're like, even the fans like, why would you cut Frank Gore, especially after that week? But Kadarius Toney was also cut yesterday. Not surprising. Not surprising as well.
AJ Dillon had season-ending neck injury, so he's out for the season. And now Green Bay looks like a place that needs a running back as well. Because right now it's just Josh Jacobs and one other guy who I've never heard of. Because Marshawn Lloyd is going to miss at least the first 4 weeks on injured reserve. So he has a hamstring injury. So that's another situation that could just be chronic. So, hey, Marshawn Lloyd, you should pick up the phone, call the Packers.
Yeah.
I mean, Frank Gore, call the Packers.
I was going to say,
get yourself on that team. Yeah.
Absolutely. The Broncos cut wide receiver Tim Patrick and Samaj P. they call him.
That's not surprising. I'm not surprised.
They suck as well, too. So, again, maybe there's some news that happens between now and then, between time we record this. But it's just wild, man. A lot of stuff going on. But, again, some of these players not really fantasy relevant backups. Guys just trimming rosters, making rosters, stuff like that. So very, very interesting. People, teams getting to their 53-man roster, whatever that number is. So
I just wanted to add a few more here. Sure. Injured reserved and PUP players. We got Hawkinson, Marshawn Lloyd, Jonathan Brooks, Keaton Mitchell, Tyler Higbee, Odell Beckham, and Kendry Miller. All those guys are either on injured reserve or PUP. They're going to miss at least the first 4 weeks of the season. And so that's also important to know. Don't draft those guys.
Absolutely not. Odell Beckham on IR, not a surprise at all. I mean, I don't understand what the hype with that guy is, man. It's been crazy.
Yeah, he's in Miami anyway. He's, he's like the number 3 or number 4 target. It's not a thing.
He's there just for the vacation, so nothing special there. Thank you, Breaking Brad. What a day for Breaking Bad. You were very busy today, weren't you, Brad?
We now have breaking news.
Yes, he's very busy. All right, so let's go over these draft tips here. Let's talk draft strategy here. We got 8 tips plus a bonus here. Again, smash thumbs up and grab the 16-round draft, so it should be light years ahead. The sheep don't miss out. Secure the solution, secure the championship. Tip number 1 here, Jim. RB early is important. I was just talking to a friend of mine. He's not even a friend of mine, just an acquaintance of mine. He's a realtor. I kind of know him he's a realtor friend of a friend. Anyway, he's an acquaintance. I was talking to him. He's like, yeah, I drafted my team. What do you think? And his starting running back, actually his running back core consists of James Conner, David Montgomery, and I think it's Brian Robinson Jr. I mean, I see the value, but it doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy as these guys being my starting guys, knowing they're all committee driven with Trey Benson, the young, hungry guy who led the college in broken tackles and had himself a good preseason week 2. And then you've got James Conner, 1,000-yard rushing season. I don't trust him. David Montgomery competing with Gibbs. Gibbs is going to take a step up this year. And then Brian Robinson Jr. I don't feel warm and fuzzy. He started this draft, I think, with Amon-Ra, and I think it was Laporta, something like that, and Burrow's his quarterback. But anyway, I don't like that. He wants this zero RB thing. I don't like it, man. I don't like it. I know you're more higher on it than me. There's so much value at wide receiver. Guys like Calvin Ridley, Deontay Johnson, Keon Coleman, Lad McConkey. There's so much talent. These guys are going to be the ones on their team. And RB is so important early. Guys, secure running backs early. It's crucial. I don't know, Jim. You're not that high on running backs early either. I don't understand you.
Well, I'm not a zero RB guy. I mean, I do want to secure myself my top running back in the first 2 or 3 rounds. But for me, the first round wide receivers are such a tier above the second and third round receivers that I really want one of those guys if I can get him, and then I can still get good running backs in the second and third round. I mean, I'm perfectly happy if I get Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is more valuable now with all his backups injured.
Can I stop you for a second? Everyone's saying that after these first tier wide receivers, everything else is a big drop down. Not necessarily. These guys can boom. Brian Robinson, Keon Coleman, like these guys can boom. There's a huge potential.
They can, but they're not gonna. I don't think they are gonna boom like those elite first round receivers. Those guys that are getting 160, 170 targets, the number one target with playing with an elite quarterback. You're not going to find that kind of, it's hard to find that upside outside of those top 6 guys.
That's BS because Jefferson's in that class. And I'd rather have Justin Herbert throwing to Lad McConkey. I'd rather have Lad McConkey with Justin Herbert at quarterback or Keon Coleman with 241 freed up targets and Josh Allen throwing the ball with a young dynamic receiver than have Justin Jefferson with Sam Darnold. Again,
Justin Jefferson is not one of those 6.
Okay. There we go.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, it's just, I just feel that the positional edge you get from that, and you're still getting RB1s in the second and potentially third round. It didn't used to be like that, like 5-6 years ago, in the first 3 rounds, it was probably like 20 to 20, probably 24 running backs going off in the first 3 rounds. So you had to get them. But we've seen this devaluation of running backs. We've seen good running backs emerge from both the middle rounds and the late rounds. And so I'm just more inclined to, I'll take a shot on 1 or 2 big guys, but then I'm going to load up, with these dart throws. Cause there's going to be injuries, there's going to be chaos. It's a chaos league when it comes to what happens on these teams. And I'm going to play the upside for that. So
I'm still getting a running back in the first 2 rounds. You guys should as well. Secure it. Again, if you're drafting at the end of round 1, I like stacking a combination of Saquon Henry or, Saquon Kyron, something like that. And then I've got my running backs early. And then I usually stack a couple other guys. I usually have 6 running backs on my roster, 2 of which are wild cards, which again, I explain in the 16-round draft, so who the sleepers are later on that could hit home runs, okay? So I still think running back, very, very important, because again, I don't want to be stuck with a David Montgomery and James Conner as my starter. So running back early, because there's only a handful of those good running backs. Very important, guys, as you're doing your drafts this year, okay? Tip number 2, don't fall for the wide receiver guess game trap. What do we mean by that, Jim? There's so many wide receiver trio situations earlier on. Nico Collins, second and third round ADP. You got Keenan Allen, who was he got force-fed last year. I watched every game last year of the Chargers, okay? He was force-fed. He's not going to see that amount of targets, that amount of volume. He's just not going to do it. Same with Nico, only 109 targets. I'm going to keep talking about this point because I want to hammer this home. And whether I'm wrong on Nico or not, I'm okay because I know the facts. Jim, let me just recap here so you understand. 109 targets last year, which put him, listen to this, 25th amongst wide receivers in targets. And CJ Stroud, who I think is going to get an uptick in his overall passing attempts, was 14th in passing attempts with 499, Jim. Hear me out. So if you've got a quarterback who is 14th in passing and a wide receiver who is 25th in passing, now you add Tank Dell and, a healthy Tank Dell back, and you add Stephon Diggs, and they got Schultz, and they got Mixon, yada, yada, yada. Yes, maybe you're going to see a slight increase in pass attempts from CJ Stroud, but you're going to get more dilution with Nico Collins. And he was coming off, we were telling everybody to draft him last year. Remember this conversation? He was wide receiver like 55. And now you're telling me that now with more target dilution that you got to draft this guy second round? Ludicrous. So I don't want you guys to get caught up in just the drafting on ADP because he's sitting there and you got to draft him. And again, DJ Moore, another example. Romo Tuesday could be good. We don't know. Keenan Allen, we don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So there's more secure guys that are going to be the ones that you can get later. So don't fall for the early round trap with the wide receiver guess game. Jim, does this make sense logically?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, you've got all these wide receivers that are in these very crowded receiving rooms. Let's talk about San Francisco. We talked about Houston. Also, we can talk about
Seattle,
Chicago, Seattle. Yeah, absolutely. All these things. We've talked about running back by committee for years, and it seems like there's a lot of teams that are moving to wide receiver by committee, which definitely makes our job harder. But yeah, again, this is why I don't like the receivers in the second and third and fourth round. It's because of all this murkiness. And so, again, it all makes sense. You got to aim high on the depth chart. You got to get the number one receivers on those teams, and you want receivers that have a chance for a high volume of targets. And players like Nico just don't have it. How can Nico grow his role this year beyond the 109 targets with Stefon Diggs there and Tank Dell healthy? I just don't see it happening. I don't see how he can possibly grow his role to really be worth this draft pick where he's going so early on the draft board. So anyway, that's where I am.
So guys, we're saying don't fall for the wide receiver trap early. And I think there's a ton and just to add to that, there's a ton of depth at wide receiver. Okay. Number 3 here. QBs are deep, but elite is viable. What does that mean? So it kind of goes back to the last tip when you're doing your fantasy football draft this year. I'm okay, and I did this. Typically, I wait on quarterback, and there's a ton of quarterbacks that could really crush it this year, but we don't really know 100%. Guys like Aaron Rodgers could crush it. I know he's older, but you never know. Guys like, Will Levis could have a boom type of year, right? If you wait a little bit more, a Caleb Williams or a Jaden Daniels could boom this year, right? But what I like to do is I like to draft a quarterback that's an ace and an anchor on my team. And you can do that this year because people are playing the wide receiver guessing game early and you can get your staple quarterback. Now, also, I want a quick note here. I don't believe in Anthony Richardson. A lot of people are excited about him. We haven't seen enough out of him for me to feel warm and fuzzy. I'd rather feel safer with like a Hurts or a Josh Allen, someone like that. And again, I think he's way overpriced. So you don't want to overpay as well, but QBs are deep. There's going to be some good ones later. You get as backups with upside, but make sure you get an anchor ace. And I've got a lot of Josh Allen stock, which I've been drafting. And I like him better than these wide receiver options round 3 to 4, your Deebo Samuels, your Keenan Allen, stuff like that. While people are drafting that, playing guessing game on who the one is at wide receiver, I'm getting my ace quarterback. So QBs are deep, but elite is viable, meaning you get an elite quarterback early. What do you think here, Jim? Quarterback. Are you waiting on quarterback or are you getting it early?
I do like to get myself one of those elite rushing quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. I'm really big on those guys. I also like Mahomes. He's great. My whole criteria is if they're a pocket passing quarterback, I need him to get 40. Can they realistically get to 40 touchdowns? And there's only a few names on that list. Mahomes obviously is always one of those players.
Jordan Love.
I think that CJ Stroud is one of those players with the addition of Stefon Diggs. I think he can get to 40. Jordan Love had 36 last year, 32 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns with this super young receiver core that's all entering year 2 and year 3. There's a huge step up there that these receivers can make that can get him there. Dak Prescott also can very much get it. So those are the players I'm targeting. But yeah, Dak Prescott, it's like the QB9. Kyler Murray's the QB10. Jaden Daniels is the QB11. He's a great one because he's a rushing quarterback. I could totally go for one of those guys later, much later in the draft, and use those early picks on wide receivers and running backs. So,
yeah, absolutely, man. I like getting that ace early while people are playing games. All right, tip number 4 here: the year of the wide receiver rookies. Draft them, and I say draft them with confidence. I've got a lot of stock: Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., and you got to make sure that they're right ones. I know Jim's a little higher on like Xavier Worthy. I think he's going to be diluted. I know you like him, but knowing that Kelsey guaranteed is the one, Travis Kelsey, with Keon, there's a chance that he's going to be the one. I know he's going to be the one. Ladd McConkey, he could be the one, right? Whereas with Worthy, Rice is there. I don't think he's going to face a serious suspension at all from what I'm hearing. But so Rice is there, Kelsey's there. It's diluted, man. So Worthy's going to get his big games. Just not, I don't see the ceiling. Again, I'm going off on a tangent here. The point I'm trying to make is I think a lot of wide receiver rookies are going to boom. So do not hesitate to pick them up in the mid to later rounds. It's going to be amazing. And in 16 rounds, we explain exactly which ones to get. What do you think of this one, man? Do you think this is the year of the wide receiver rookie, Jim?
Well, yeah, they've been bid up the board really high compared to how they've usually gone in the past. But of course, you got the big names. You got Marvin Harrison, you got Malik Neighbors, you got Romo Dunze, the big three there. But I kind of like those second tier guys because, again, I'd be drafting them for my flex spots. And I'm totally comfortable with putting these rookie wide receivers in the flex. And these are guys that may start a little slow, but they're going to build during the course of the year. And they're going to really come into form right at the end for the fantasy playoffs. That's when you need those players to really perform. And so, yeah, I think the three you mentioned are definitely in there. There's just a bunch. This is a historically good wide receiver class. And some people are saying that it is as good as the 2014 NFL class, which has lots of very famous names that like Devontae Adams, OBJ, Stephon Diggs, all those guys, they all entered back in 2014. They're all at the end of their careers, but these guys are just at the beginning. Sky's the limit for these guys. I love them. I've been getting probably about 2 per draft, and I really like them. Like I said, I really like them as flex options. I think they're really, really solid with lots of upside.
So I got a couple sayings for each of these rookie wide receivers, Alex. Don't be a donkey, draft Lad McConkey, right? That's the first one. Second one is you better be on Keon. That was one of our listeners came up with that one. And for Brian, you better be lying if you pass on Brian Thomas Jr. There you go.
That's all. That one struggled a little bit.
That was a bit of a reach. You better be lying if you. Anyways. Oh no, I got one. Be a lion, draft Brian. There you go. There you go.
There you go. That's good. That's
there
good.
There you go. Brian Thomas Jr.
Like I said, when you rhyme it, you make it true.
Absolutely.
People are more likely to agree with you when you rhyme. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Just remember.
Oh man, here we go. All right, here we go. Tip number 5 here: be picky and follow the Cuddy. Now, Jim's app actually lays out a Cuddy score: consistency, upside, durability, depth, and youth. Does the player score a high consistency score? Does he have a good upside? Is he durable? Where is he on the depth chart? Is he young? So the 60 rounds plus app is going to help you with that. But you guys can do your own research in your head too, as well, and run that process before you draft. For example, Elijah Mitchell. He gets like a 0 Cuddy score. He's not young. He's not durable. He's not high on the depth chart like an Elijah Mitchell. And now he's on IR, so he's completely a 0. He's got a 0 Cuddy score, right? I'm using him as an example. Or guys that are injury prone, you don't want to draft them. So guys, this is very, very important. Use the Cuddy. Be very picky with who you put on your roster. Make sure they're high on the depth chart. Make sure they're young and they've got that upside. They're not buried on the depth chart and they are relatively consistent. Now, if they're rookie, they're going to lack the consistency, but they're going to be very high on the upside and youth. So I value upside, youth, and depth chart a lot. Okay, they're all valuable, even durability, right? So Jim, I mean, you've been using the Cuddy quite a bit, Jim. When you pick your guys, you're very picky. Very picky.
Oh yeah, very much so. And again, I also, the way the Cuddy score is set up is that if they score poorly on one of those criteria, that's actually negative points. It takes away from other positive criteria. So it really penalizes the player. And we also identify with color coding how these players are ranked. So you either have a green circle around your Cuddy score. That means they're good. They're a recommend. There's a yellow triangle, which means they're a risky pick, or they're a red stop sign, which means do not draft. Just stay away. Don't take that player. And so it's very easy. And when you're in draft mode, all the players are sorted by their Cuddy score. Highest Cuddy scores are at the top. So all the green circles are at the top. All the red stop signs are at the bottom. You just ignore the bottom of the list. You focus on the top. Those are the players you want to target. And it lets you know what round you need to target what players. So,
all right. So be picky. Okay. So those are pretty much my tips here to get you guys ready for the draft. Jim's got a couple here. What do you mean by use the Q?
Well, the Q, you didn't spell it right. It's Queue is what it is.
Q-U-E.
And what that is, on your draft board, you can just mark players. It's usually like a little star next to their name. You just mark the players that you like, and then they go onto a separate little list off to the side. And I use that. The most important way I use that is, first of all, I pick all my favorite players and I put them on the queue. But then as I'm moving from round to round, it lets me know what of my highest ranked players are still available on the board. So I can see when a player falls and I won't miss it on the draft board. So I utilize it a lot. And it also kind of prevents that tunnel vision that I talk about, where you focus on one player. When you have your queue, you're going to have a whole list of players. I like to have like 8, 10, 12 players in the queue. I'm just adding them in as I'm going through the list, and I'm looking at the 16 rounds plus. And then when it gets to my pick, I'm like, oh, hey, this guy was supposed to be gone before this pick, but he's still here. I'm going to take him. Or, oh, well, they took my favorite player, but I still have these 4 other options here, so I'm going to take this guy,
Yeah,
it prevents that sort of panic, that sort of panic that happens if you're only tunnel visioning on one player and then it gets selected right before your pick. So
I think it pisses me off more than anything, because I have my guys in queue, which again is very helpful. But when I see my players coming off the queue, I get really angry because I really wanted that player. And then I go to look.
Oh, I know. You're always cursing him out. You're like, look at this guy. Look at this bastard. Look what he did to me here. He took this guy like way too early. I'm like, well, that's what happens. So
that's what I hate about the queue. When my queue gets dwindled down, I get upset. I'm like, but again, you should always have a backup plan for a backup plan, which is another draft tip, which we explain in 16 rounds. Okay. Tip number 7. Jim's got a strategy. It's called how to get the QB you want every single time. Can you explain this theory, Jim, and how people can apply it?
All right. So depending on your league, it's hard to know when the quarterbacks are going to be coming off the board. Some leagues, they go very, very early. And in some leagues, they go very late. There's no real priority to take quarterbacks. So what I say is, when you're looking at the list of the quarterbacks, they tend to come off in the same order every time. And it's always like 1 or 2 quarterbacks around. That's usually how it goes once they start coming off the board. And so in order to properly target my player, like let's say I want to take Jordan Love as my quarterback this year. I love Jordan Love as a quarterback this year. Yeah. Right now, I believe he is, he is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's the quarterback 8. So what I do is, from Jordan Love, I'm going to count back 3 quarterbacks. 1, 2, 3. That would be CJ Stroud. So what my tip is that you would take Jordan Love on your next pick after CJ Stroud comes off the board. And that would, by using this technique, you are almost 100% guaranteed that you will get the quarterback that you want. You will not get sniped on him. And it also helps you that if the app's saying, oh, Jordan Love, you need to take him in the 6th round, but you get to the 6th round pick and there's still, like Lamar Jackson still on the board. So there's 4 quarterbacks ahead of Jordan Love. You can say, you know what? I can bypass him this round. I'll be able to get him next round. I can get a different player, and you take that player. So it works very, very well for me. Hardly ever do I end up getting sniped on that player by using that strategy. So
great tip here, Jim. So we got a couple more here, and then I'll give you guys the bonus one. Jim, this is another one. Save your last 2 picks for defensive kicker. I still like grabbing a top 10 defense ideally. I know I like to stream as well if I need to, but can you give us some more explanation? The kicker I get. If you need a kicker, just grab Cameron Dicker. Like, that's kind of another saying I say.
If you need a kicker, there you go.
Cameron Dicker. Why are you so hard on this point here? Save your last 2 picks for defense and kicker.
The thing is, there's always going to be good defensive matchups on every given week. And for the most part, if you're in a 12-team league, there's only going to be 12 to 14 defenses rostered. So on any given week, you're going to have upwards of 20 defenses to choose from to pull them off of waivers if you need them. And same thing with the kickers. I play a lot of those high stakes fantasy leagues which use the FAB. And what I say is, for kickers, we get $1,000 FAB dollars every season to spend to acquire players. I've never spent more than $3 on a kicker. That's the most I've ever had to spend on a kicker, and it's usually just $1. And with defenses, it's like maybe $25, $50 is about as much as you ever have to spend to get a defense. They're easy to get. There's lots of them on the board each week, and there's always good matchups. Even if the team's not that good, they could have a primo matchup against some rookie quarterback that can't stop turning the ball over. I mean, it's, like just imagine if Brock Purdy goes out at San Francisco and they got to put in, who's the guy that got the 5 interceptions this past week? Trey Lance. Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he put up these ridiculous fantasy numbers, but he also had 5 interceptions and 2 turnovers. It's like, oh my God, if Trey Lance is playing, I want to play the defense that's playing against him because it's going to be like bonkers. You're going to be able to get all these points. So again, they're just unlike the quarterbacks or the running backs or the wide receivers. There's always a ton of viable options with those 2 positions, and to spend an early draft pick, especially like those people that they fill out their main positions. And then like in the 9th round, they take their defense and their kicker, 9th and 10th round, such a waste. You really need to use those picks for more running backs, more wide receivers, build your depth, build the strength of your team. And again, like I said, you can just totally wait till the last round and you'll be able to get yourself a good defense.
Absolutely. All right. Last one here. Always conviction. Jim's always got conviction, which goes to our last point here. Again, make sure you guys grab 16 rounds to give you guys all the optimal players drafted each round. But I got to talk about this tip. Have conviction in your team, your picks, yourself, and don't listen to the grades. Meaning, some people do mock drafts and they look at their draft grade after they drafted their team, and they might get a C or a D. Remember, last year, if you drafted Eckler round 1, Higgins round 2, Keenan Allen round 3, J.K. Dobbins round 4, Mike Williams round 5, and on, and passed on Laporta. Or maybe let's say you drafted Laporta round 2 last year. We saw how well he did, right? For example, you would have got a D. They're like, what are you doing drafting Laporta round 2?
You would have got an F if you took Laporta 2nd round. Come on, let's be real.
You didn't have to get him round 10. But what I'm saying is, once you got 60 rounds and you know who the optimal players are, the sheep think differently. The way rankings don't work. If rankings work, Tank Dell and Nico wouldn't have been ranked 55 last year. Laporta wouldn't have been ranked 21 amongst tight ends last year. It does, they don't work. CJ Stroud wasn't a top 10 quarterback last year. He just wasn't. Everyone slept on him. We were telling you, grab him as a backup. Guys, have conviction. Don't believe the grades. They will not help you. That's the bonus tips. Believe in yourself. Believe in the 16-round drafts. Believe in the podcast. And follow the Cuddy system. You guys are going to be solid, okay? Very, very simple. Nobody teaches this stuff, Jim, which blows my mind. It's always like, just draft based on ADP. It's not how you're going to win your leagues, guys. It just doesn't work like that, okay?
Hey, can I give one more tip? Can I give a bonus tip?
We get 2 bonuses. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, my bonus tip is, my friends, do not draft injured players. We just went through that big long list of all those guys on PUP and IR.
Yeah.
Don't draft them. Don't bother. Okay. You know what? The only time you can control injuries during the fantasy football season is during your draft. That's the only time you can control it. And so why not just draft yourself 16 healthy, 100% ready to go, ready to play players? Injuries are going to happen. They're going to happen no matter what. And why would you saddle yourself with a guy who all these guys on IR and PUP, minimum 4 weeks? That's 1/4 of your fantasy season. And if you start out, because you took these guys, you go 1-3 or 0-4 or whatever, you're hosed, man. I mean, come on. You are totally screwed for the season. You probably won't even make the playoffs. You need to draft guys that are started, ready to go, ready to play, and ready to contribute right off the bat. Go with those guys. Avoid these injured players. So that's my final bonus tip.
Yeah, minimize your risk, honestly, guys, and follow that Cuddy system, okay? And we also got one more bonus here from Breaking Brad. Breaking Brad, do you have any tips on how to win your fantasy league? Jim, are you ready for he's been waving at me. He's like, I want to give my tip on how to win fantasy. Breaking Brad, are you ready for this tip, Jim? Are you ready? I don't think Jim's ready. Let's hear it. Ready, Brad? What's the tip on how to win our leagues?
We now have breaking news.
There you have it. That's it. That's our tip. He doesn't say much different. I wish he'd just change his tune one time. I think everybody else wants him to change his tune. All right, that's it,
guys.
We gotta
find that voice actor. We could have him record some more stuff for us.
We need more. We need more lines from that guy. He just sticks to what he's got. He's just comfortable, Jim. He's comfortable with what he says. You know, he gets it right every time. He says it perfect. He delivers the line. You know, there's a lot of people that make careers off one line, like Bruce Buffer and people like that. You know, announcers have made, you know,
right. Not like the guy that says, "Let's get ready to rumble," and he gets paid like $1 million every time he says it.
Yes. Yes. Or it's time.
We gotta think of a line. If only that "Don't be a donkey" draft lab McConkey could become that, and then he could just come out. He'll pay you $1 million just to say that line.
Oh man, yeah. We need a big year out of McConkey for that to happen. All right, man. So guys, grab 16 rounds, smash it, tap it, slap it. Hope you guys have an outstanding Wednesday. Lots to talk about. We covered a lot. Thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye, Jim. Bye, everybody.